Good day, everyone. My name is Mary Joyce Nicole Manalo, and I'll be presenting Chapter 11 of Business Process Outsourcing Systems. So, avoiding common outsourcing mistakes um, often stems from a disconnect between expectations and actual results. So, success depends on clear communications from buyers and effective execution by suppliers. So, misguided motives and lack of preparation can also lead to failures. So, avoiding outsourcing mistakes by setting realistic goals, ensuring alignment, and preparing thoroughly. So, outsourcing isn't always the right solution. So, understanding when not to outsource is just as crucial as knowing when to do so. So, this section explores key considerations to help organizations avoid unnecessary risk and costly mistakes by making informed outsourcing decisions. So, this key consideration include knowing thyself and knowing thy business. So, before outsourcing, we need to be honest about our motivation. So, we need to consider the following: avoiding operational problems. So we need to fix issues internally instead of shifting them somewhere else. So not ready for detailed planning. So outsourcing requires thorough preparation. And next is managing a failing project. If you don't understand, outsourcing won't fix it. So lastly is that we have unwilling to stay involved. So success depends on active collaborations from start to finish. So when outsourcing isn't ideal, so for knowing thy business, so outsourcing is a powerful tool, but not every function should be delegated. It is crucial to recognize when keeping operations in-house is the better choice. So avoid outsourcing in the following cases. So first is core business competencies. Next is proprietary knowledge-based functions. Third is legal business judgment. Fourth is high risk political environments. Next is the departmental or multidisciplinary services. Next is during leadership transitions. And lastly, we have amid major restructuring. So for core business competencies, so your company's strength and unique values proposition should always remain internal. So handing them off risks losing control over your competitive advantage. Next for knowing their business is um, legal business judgment. So functions requiring discretionary decision making with legal implications should not be outsourced, as they cannot be lawfully delegated. Next is proprietary knowledge based functions. So business critical tasks like financial projections, growth forecast, and market analysis rely on internal expertise and access to sensitive company data. Outsourcing these may lead to unpredictable risk. So for departmental or multidisciplinary services, so when outsourced services span multiple teams or disciplines, maintaining oversight and coordinations can become complex. So making in-house management a more strategic choice. So outsource for high risk political environments. So outsourcing to regions with political instability, um, embargoes, or regulatory uncertainties can jeopardize operations. So, engaging local legal expert is essential to assess the risk. So, for during leadership transition, so initiating an outsourcing project when senior management is changing can lead to misaligned goals. So, a new CRO or leadership team should have control over such a long-term decision. So, if an organization is undergoing a significant shift, such as cost cutting, mergers, or rapid expansion, outsourcing without a clear strategy can create additional instability and risk. So, after choosing to outsource, it's crucial to implement the right measures to enhance benefits while reducing risk. So, adhering to essential guidelines can streamline the process and safeguard your business from potential challenges. So, this section highlights best practices for establishing a secured, structured, and effective outsourcing approach. So, first is uncover hidden costs. Next is verify data or protection measures. Next is evaluate company expertise. Next is plan for contingencies, monitor scope creep, comply with government regulations, care about cultural differences, track key personnel, and account for knowledge transfer costs. So for uncover hidden costs, so one of the biggest sources of conflicts is outsourcing in unrealistic financial expectation. So many organizations expect significant savings but fail to account for hidden costs and operational differences. So for example, so a Philippine-based e-commerce company outsources customer service to an offshore BPO provider. So initially they expect significant cost savings but later realize additional expenses such as training, infrastructure upgrades, and contract rego- renegotiation. So by the third year, after refining workflows and optimizing operations, they achieve a 40% cost reduction, making outsourcing more efficient in the long run. So, safeguarding success. So, top 10 outsourcing sins to measure outsourcing success. So, to avoid these common mistakes, so lack of executive management commitment, not developing a comprehensive communications plan, failing to understand outsourcing methodologies, and ignoring outsourcing business risks. Next is not consulting professionals when needed, not dedicating top internal resources, skipping important phases in the outsourcing process, as well as overlooking cultural differences. And lastly, are not ensuring vendor productivity as well as neglecting a formal governance program. So next is verify data security measure. So always assess your vendor security practices to ensure they meet your standards. So address privacy concerns early, document security requirements, and establish a clear integration method to protection throughout the partnership. So for example, Philippine-based BPO company outsourcing data entry services ensures that the vendor complies with the Data Privacy Act of 2012, implementing data encryption and secure storage protocols. So for evaluate company expertise, so assess internal businesses knowledge before outsourcing, especially if it provides a competitive advantage. So for example, a multinational retail company in the Philippines evaluates an international logistics vendors' expertise to ensure that the outsourcing does not disrupt with their competitive edge. So plan for contingencies. So vendor failures can happen despite careful planning. Consider multiple vendors or alternative outsourcing models to reduce exposure and ensure continuity. So, for example, is a Filipino-owned electronics companies outsources manufacturing to a vendor in China, but identifies alternative vendors to mitigate supply chain risk. So next is monitor scope rate. So outsourcing contracts can never truly be fixed price. So cost can rise if work exceeds initial estimates. So expect scope changes of 10 to 15% and plan accordingly. So an example for this is a Philippine software firm outsources mobile app development. So the scope expands by 12% due to added feature, so the budget is adjusted to accommodate this. So next is comply with government regulations. So industries like finance, healthcare, and utilities must ensure vendors meet regulatory requirements. An example for this is a Philippine financial institution ensure its IT or information technology outsourcing vendor complies with the Anti-Money Laundering Act to mitigate legal risk. Next is we have address cultural differences. So cultural gaps can impact outsourcing success. Train staff on communication styles and business practices to enhance collaboration. So an example for this is a multinational call center provides cultural sensitivity training for both its local and offshore teams to improve service quality. So next is that we have monitor key personnel. So high turnover rates in outsourcing can disrupt projects, so track retentions of essential team members. An example for this is a Philippine manufacturing company monitors turnover rates of offshore engineers and includes retention clauses in its contracts. So treat outsourcing as a strategic investment and align interests, set clear objectives, and establish governments to ensure success. So, what are the key requirements for successful outsourcing? So, first is that we need to have realistic goals. So, set achievable expectations for cost savings, efficiency, and performance. Next is that we need to have strong alignment. So, ensure both parties share common objectives and mutual understanding. Third is we need to be thoroughly prepared. So, conduct risk analysis, plan for contingencies, and establish clear guidelines. And lastly, we have ongoing evaluation. So regularly assess vendors' performance and adapt strategies for continuous improvement. So for my personal reflection one, I learned that outsourcing works best when businesses have clear goals. If companies rush into it without planning, it can cause more problems than solutions. So for my personal reflection number two, so outsourcing might seem like a cheaper option, but extra costs like training and contract changes can add up. It's important to plan ahead to avoid unexpected expenses. And lastly, for my personal reflection number three, is not everything should be outsourced. Important tasks like company leadership, legal work, and unique business ideas are best kept within the company to avoid risk. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.